Hello, everyone, and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Come to you, as always, from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. My name is John McTolly, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Garrett Jones and Will. Guys, how are you?
Uchini.
Uchini
Bright
indeed.
Suns.
Yes.
Doing well, doing well.
Will, I guess you said off air that you had something you wanted to talk about and hit on a little bit.
So anybody who watches or listens to the podcast is aware that I was very much excited about an upcoming trip to Florida to go on the Galactic Star Cruiser, the Halcyon Star Wars quote unquote hotel experience. And we've been planning this for about 8 months. And we went down, and wouldn't you know that pesky Hurricane Nicole decided to rear their not so ugly head, but in the threat of Nicole forced Disney to cancel our Halcyon voyage for this past weekend. So obviously we were disappointed, but totally understood. In fact, I'll tell you, and I'll get to that in a minute. I learned a little behind the scenes information as to why, the official reasons why they canceled. But um, I will say that Disney really did an amazing job of kind of making up for this cancellation. We were able to reschedule it for anytime we wanted, really. So we chose the summer because there's just so much going on between now and the summer. There just wasn't enough time to get to do it again. So we're doing it in the early summer, and they actually gave it to us back at half the price we paid.
Oh, wow.
Which was shocking to me. I would have expected like a small discount or something, but not half price. In addition, they because of the timing, right, this was going to be just my wife and I on, we were on a voyage. We were with friends, and the two of them were without their children. They have 3 children, and we have one daughter, and we asked if we could include them on the next voyage, and they did. They said, of course you can, and again at half the price for them.
It's pretty fantastic.
And then if that wasn't enough, there was one little hiccup, which was that we were stuck in Florida. We had booked a few days before the Halcyon and a day after the Halcyon. But now those 2 days that we're supposed to be on the Halcyon, we have no place to stay. So Disney put us up at the Grand Floridian, which is the top tier deluxe resort, for 2 nights. And we, technically speaking, they paid for the first night. We paid for the second night, but utilizing the credit that they had awarded us. So we ended up with two free nights at the Grand Floridian, rescheduled the trip for the summer with another person, and ended up still getting quite a few, at least $1,500 back.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Right.
I was shocked. I was shocked in a good way. So, and then of course, to make matters even more ironic or whatever, the weather ended up not even being that bad. It was like a breeze and a spritz of rain, and so we just enjoyed ourselves in the parks for a couple of days and had a wonderful time. It was very crowded this time of year. They call it in Florida. They call it Jersey Weekend because New Jersey teachers have a convention, so everyone is off for Thursday and Friday. So it's like, so everyone just uses that weekend to go down to Florida.
Yeah.
But I did visit Batu, and I got to take part in a lightsaber meetup for Life Day, quote unquote. They had a Life Day lightsaber meetup on Saturday night, and had a good time with that. So it was a great experience overall. So
that's cool.
Awesome.
Hopefully, you'll let me come back on the show back in the summer, and
definitely.
Finally do get it, and I'll give you my report on it. So
definitely.
Thanks for giving me that moment to share that experience.
Awesome. Very much. Yeah, no problem. Well, I'm guessing you guys have seen episode 10 of Andor.
I have.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I have too. Let's just start right off, and I just got to say that opening scene with Andy Serkis was amazing. I love that opening scene, just him looking straight ahead and just trying to process what he just learned and what he just found out and what just happened. I mean, that is to me is just a masterclass, and why he is such a great actor. Not just a voice actor. I think people always see him as a voice actor of, the voice of Snoke. He was the voice of Gollum in Lord of the Rings. Yes, but just he himself is just such an amazing actor.
Well, I
And
mean,
this just showed it.
he was so much more than just the voice of those characters. He has his own company that does motion capture and took it to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Not just for the, Planet of the Apes and a lot and King Kong, where he was actually, emoting the characters. And just to be able for him to he was utilizing all of these different components, but kind of in a compartmentalized way.
Mhm.
I loved him even as Claw in the Black Panther and Avengers films. So
he can do it. He's such a wide, a varied actor, can do so many different roles.
Right.
Absolutely.
So yeah, just you're right. That opening scene but just that whole episode.
Everything about it. We're going to kind of I think we need to kind of do what we did last week, which is take each story separately instead of jumping around from this to this. We focus on one aspect and we'll move to the other. So let's start out focusing on just the escape, and that whole scenario and how that kind of plays out. I mean, your guys' thoughts right off the bat. Garrett, you've been kind of quiet, so.
Well, the escape, like, I was really kind of curious what was going on because, going into it, I guess, spoiler alert, we saw in the previous episode where Andor was cutting into that metal cylinder in the privy. And I thought maybe he was trying to cut into like one of the electrical lines to just kill the power. Had no idea that what he was actually doing was cutting into the plumbing of the bathroom, which is brilliant because then it shorts out the floor if and when they trigger it.
Yeah.
And from there, it just like that first initial scramble to get out of the workroom was brutal. It was scary to watch. Like I was literally like just chewing on my fingers. Like, are they going to get out? What's going to happen? Please don't kill anybody. Like, okay, maybe kill the ginger guy, but it was a really, really well executed, well thought out, well planned sequence, and the fact that they took over the prison really quickly. I kind of would have liked to have seen a little bit of comeuppance with the warden that greeted them, when they first landed on Narkina 5. But, the fact that, for as tough as that guy was, the fact that he and the majority of his crew were locked inside of a room cowering was just, it was kind of the icing on top of the cake.
Yeah, that was just, and you're right. I mean, we touched about it last week, just, how I personally thought these last two episodes inside the prison for me were just some of the most weirdly terrifying episodes we've had in Star Wars. Just the starkness of it and just how cold and calculating and how uncaring everyone it was. Like even, they said nobody's listening because nobody cares.
Right.
And they use that to their advantage. They use the fact that they took what the Empire just saw as like, well, they're just throwaway people. So we don't, why do we need to even care about these people? And they use that to their advantage.
Yeah, they did.
And I know we said we're not going to jump ahead, but I think at this point it is important to jump ahead because you jump ahead to Ferrix. I think that's the planet's name, where it's just the opposite, where everyone is listening. Like that you hear as they're walking, as you see them walking through the streets, you hear the probe droids everywhere, and you realize that you go from a situation where nobody's listening to them, nobody cares about them, to a place where the ears are everywhere and you can't whisper without worrying about, is someone listening to what I'm saying and going to throw me in. I thought that was just kind of a interesting juxtaposition between the two areas where, like I said, you have an area where nobody cares what they're doing, what they do, or what they say, as long as you're doing your job, to an area where, oh yeah, we care what you're saying. We want you to be saying what we want you to be saying, what we want you to be thinking.
Right. And if you don't do that, we put you in a place like this where then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The episode, I think it's got this nice, like, this particular episode has a nice balance of extremes where, just like what you're saying, is, you go from this area where nobody cares to an area where people are caring way too much. And it creates a nice dichotomy of what's happening. And then you've got what's happening on Coruscant right in the middle, where you're not sure who's hearing, who cares, or why.
Yeah, I love that conversation between Mon Mothma and that gangster.
Oh, wow.
There were so many undertones of what was being said, covered with what was actually being said, what was being said between the lines. And Screen Crush did a good thing where he did he took it and did what's the word I'm looking for? Said what they were really saying, and it was actually kind of funny.
The subtext.
The subtext. But there was just so many, like you said, so much subtext between, well, that's politics. You say one thing, but you're actually saying something else the whole time. And it's just a matter of knowing what the other person is saying without showing that you know what the other person is saying. Yeah. And that guy was kind of creepy. He was,
and then the whole thing with the daughter and the
well, and I think that kind of solidified to me kind of an idea that I had, that marriages on Trilla, I can't pronounce her home world, Chandrilla are arranged. Yeah, which makes sense about why she kind of doesn't like her husband. You can kind of tell that they don't really like each other, and probably because it was an arranged marriage.
Yeah, there's definitely some tension there between what, and I think that's kind of neat that you get to see this idea of tradition versus free will and what people are wanting, because and that in and of itself is kind of like a micro expression of what happens throughout the rest of the episode, because you've got the Empire operates on this pomp and circumstance and this sentimentality for tradition, even if it's like relatively new compared to everything else in the galaxy. Whereas you've got other people wanting to do their own thing. They want to be free. They want to have that sense of liberty. And there are people who feel constrained by their traditions, by the way that they were raised or how they grew up. And you can see a huge difference in that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and also I thought it was interesting with Mon Mothma being put in a position where you have this person who's telling her, look, I agree with you. Basically saying, the Empire's overreaching. It needs to be stopped. I have what you need, but you have to compromise your morals to get what I have. Are you willing to do that? And to her credit, Mon Mothma put her foot down and said, no, we are not the same.
So far.
I did think that was interesting when he turned around, when she said that I basically said, I'm not interested. And he turned around and said,
that's the first time.
Funny. That's the first time you've lied.
Yeah. First untrue thing you've said.
First untrue thing you've said. I was like, So it'll be interesting to see, how much these different factions are willing to bend and break, go past their what they consider to be their moral line.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
And
that's the.
were
I've been.
you? Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, I've been loving all the intrigue going on
Mm.
in the whole Mon Mothma. I don't know, B story or even C story. I don't.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't know if they call them. I don't. It's hard to call either one a B plot or
right.
a C plot,
Well, I
because
only
they
say
all
that.
seem to be intertwined. I mean,
Right.
yeah, if you consider the Andor story to be the main plot, then yes, these other ones are kind of B and C. But I think they will all intertwine
Right. They all kind of
at the
will
end.
mesh together. So.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What were you saying? Continuing.
Um. Did you find that one interesting? Kind of I don't call it plot twist, but surprise with the double agent.
You know, I'm, guy. I know this can't be true. I know that this can't be. I mean, well, hear me out. Yes, I mean it was interesting to see that he was a spy, but there was something about that actor that was familiar to me, and I
Mm.
don't think it's. I don't. I think it's a completely coincidence, but he reminds me, and think about this for a minute and see if you can understand what I'm getting at. And I could just be. It could just be in my own brain and my own head canon, whatever. He reminds me of the actor from Rogue One who is at the station with the earpiece. One of the on Yavin,
Mm.
with the jumpsuit, and he comes running looking for Senator Mon Mothma, and it's when Rogue One goes
Yeah.
goes in it. He's the one who informs Mon Mothma, and he's just, and it's not the same actor. It can't be. And for
No.
one thing, he's not tall enough. It's not. But he just seemed like him. He had that same
Yeah.
kind of look, same color hair, little the Star Warsian 70s.
What I love about that, I love that so many of the actors have the 80s, late 70s, early 80s mustache and the hair.
Well, what
Like
I
they're
love,
doing that. I love that.
and going back to Rogue One, I thought that was a really fun thing, is that they actually were taking some of these bit players who were just sitting in Yavin, and I swear they were trying to set it up that these people that were just sitting in the background, but they had like one quick scene, when the Death Star has cleared the planet or whatever, and they're like hearing all this, and you just see like little scenes of them, and I swear they were trying to make these actors for Rogue One look like those actors.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, they were just doing this generic thing, but that's kind of where I could not get it out of my head that this isn't going to be that character who had no name. He was just, but
I mean, you never know. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the name of the actor so I could see if he was in Rogue One, I'm reasonably certain he was not.
Yeah.
But it just happened. He just happened to look a little bit like it in my memory. So anyway,
but that whole scene, just showed like the sacrifice that all of these rebels are making. Where he's like, he's even saying, "I went out. I just want to be with my family. I just want to, raise." And Luthen tells him straight up, "It's like, hey, sorry, buddy, you're in this for life. You're stuck."
Yeah, I thought that was kind of like the whole context of that conversation was like there are subtleties. Like he didn't really have to threaten. He could just say, "Hey, by the way, how's your kid? Congratulations on becoming a father." And it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
I liked that he was doing all this thing over the communicator, and then the door opens and he's there.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little,
I love that. They're really pushing the gray area with Luthen. Like, Luthen in many ways is not a likable person.
Right.
Like, he's not a likable character. I mean,
No,
he is, but he isn't. I mean, you see just like.
Well, he's captivating. There's a charisma about him as a character that draws you in, and that's good. But at the same time, like as the audience, you're questioning whether you agree with him on a moral standpoint. And the cool thing about that is that that's an example of really good character writing, as well as performance from Stellan
Stella
Skarsgård.
Skarsgård, yeah.
Yeah.
He is
Well, and I think the difference between what Skarsgård's character is doing and what other, more traditional villains might do is, I think Luthen understands that what he's doing is morally wrong. He understands that, but in his mind, the needs justify the means. He understands, that he's not doing good things, that people are going to die, and that's on him.
Mm-hmm.
I think villains usually tend to be one of two camps. You either have your mustache twirling villain who doesn't care, or you have people like Deidre, who feel that they don't see themselves as villains.
No,
They
I mean,
see themselves as heroes.
And
They
she's
don't
not
see
really
what
a
they're doing
villain.
as wrong.
She's
She's not.
For sure.
Yeah,
she's not.
But
she's not a villain.
yeah, but the villain who sees what they're doing as morally right, as morally righteous. I'd say that kind of a difference between Luthen and maybe more traditional villains, where Luthen is willing to look right out and say, yeah, I know what I'm doing is not good, but I'm doing it for the. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to put.
No, I do.
Yeah,
I mean, he's self-aware.
He is self-aware. Yeah,
yeah, he's self-aware of what he is.
What
he knows
I'm
what
trying
he
to say is. Many times the villain is the hero of their own story,
right.
And I don't think Luthen has any that thought at all, that he's not the hero of his own story.
Well, there's no compunction for him to think of himself in any kind of heroic way. He is basically what's the best way to define him is that he is someone who is driven by a purpose, and rather than spending all this time, ambiguities of morality or anything like that, like he knows what needs to be done, and he's going about doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly, and he's just doing it. And I think the only reason he's explaining himself to begin with, he's accepted this.
Yeah,
he's explaining himself to the guy to say, you think, because I think remember the other guy, the spy, kind of looked at him like, what are you sacrificing? I'm sitting here busting my butt, giving you information, and I got this new family, and I'm really nervous and really scared. What are you fight? What are you losing? You and your big cushy house and your antiques and everything. So
yeah, and that answer he gave was just
I've seen people quoting that, and just putting the whole monologue on Facebook.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, all right. Very they're really into it. So
let's go back to that prison escape for a second. When they really, and that one line, one way out, and that just became their mantra. And just everyone just going up and just I mean, people have said that there's not enough action in this. There's not enough stuff going on. That was a pretty action-filled episode.
Oh yeah, I mean it was like edge of your seat, nail biter. We just it was just like, oh my god.
And then I was kind of confused when they finally got to the top and there's surround. I was like, oh, that's right. I forgot. They're in the middle of the ocean. I was expecting there to be maybe transports there. They could fly off, and I'm like, oh, okay. How are they gonna?
Yeah, not so easy.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I did
that heart-wrenching scene with Andy Serkis saying, "I can't swim."
I loved how he said it in a way that was almost comical. He was just like, "I can't swim," But I guess he would even know. I mean, well, that was I did question that. Did he even know that they were on a? They know their surroundings,
they had
right?
to know, yeah.
So
I mean, unless it was just a thing of he wanted to make sure that everyone got out. They were that, like, at least that floor, the people on that floor were his responsibility. So he wanted to make sure that everyone got out that was on his floor.
Right.
And then, but I also like the fact that his fate. I mean, we kind of know probably what happened, but his fate was kind of left in limbo. Like,
Well,
was he killed when the cars finally did get out and retook it? Was he killed? Was he recaptured? Did he kill himself? Did he?
I have a sneaky prediction about that.
Okay.
So one, I have got one of two scenarios playing in my head. One, he does leave, but Imperials pick him up somewhere else because he wasn't good at hiding. Because maybe he floundered in the water, someone helped him get to shore, or he barely survived, and he's too tired to run and hide when the Imperials finally come and catch up to the runaways. The other option is that because of that fear of drowning, he stays on the deck and he ends up getting captured when whoever comes looking at the prison investigates, and he's able to give them a detailed picture of Andor.
oh,
It puts Mira back on the trail.
that's a good point. That's a good that's a very great I can't talk. That's a very good theory. So
yeah,
we'll
that
see.
is
We'll see.
really interesting. Yeah, because there's got to be something that gets Mira back back on that trail, of where Andor is and where
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out because we've I mean Mira is getting closer, but she hasn't had that real breakthrough in her investigation yet that she needs to really find Andor and bring him to what she would consider justice.
Right.
So this is what they're going to get is they're going to get this alert. She's going to be tracking all of her sources, and anyone or any description that comes remotely across that seems like Andor, she's going to be looking for it.
Right.
So if someone who even comes close to matching that description, which obviously there was on Narkina 5, she's going to go and investigate. Yeah. And that's where she gets to connect with Kino, and he's going to tell her everything, whether he means to or not.
Yeah.
I have a sneaky suspicion that if it does go that route, she's going to pull the same old tricks that she did with Bix.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I do have one slightly, weird. I'm not going to call it a criticism. I'm just going to call it a question.
Okay.
Did none of the other prisoners survive? Did you ever notice the last scene where Cassian and Melchi are the only ones left running?
Yeah.
What happened to everybody else?
I don't know. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that once they got in the water, they all scattered. Which would make sense.
Which I get, but it just seemed, I don't know. It seems weird to me.
I think for the story, for the sheer story aspect of it, it's easier to tell a story if you just have, a handful of people going somewhere than if you do all those people. I think it was just easier from a storytelling standpoint just to have those three people. Yeah.
I get that. No, I do. I just thought it was funny. I was like, did none of them survive the swim?
Well, I mean, when I look how far they were dropping down, I'm like, okay, a lot of these people had to probably die on impact, or like they were jumping on top of each other. So I'm sure people literally, fell on top of each other and broke their backs, or so I'm sure people didn't even survive the fall. Because you saw people like literally falling off, like getting pushed off.
The height of the platform it's high enough where if you land wrong, even if you hit the water and you don't break the surface properly, that surface tension is just going to kill you on impact.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think it's something like anywhere between 60 to 100 feet up. If you don't know how to break the surface tension of the water just right, if you don't angle your jump the right way, even if you're floundering through the air, it's like hitting concrete.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Even just jumping into a pool with a bad angle hurts. So you can imagine.
Belly flop.
Exactly, right? So,
Inmates of Narkina 5, the belly flop champions of the galaxy.
they probably have like competitions,
Yeah, yeah.
I do absolutely, I the speech that God, Andy Serkis's character makes
Mm.
in the
Oh,
microphone. That
yeah.
was,
That
especially that it
was really
wasn't
good.
going well at first. Is that the best you've got?
Yeah,
It's like so. I just thought that
yeah.
was fantastic. Yeah, I
And
mean,
those guards, I mean, those guards basically just being robots. I mean, those guards
Mhm.
were just as, you know, plugged, what was the term they would use, on program? Those
yeah.
guards were just as on program as the prisoners had been.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
know, like to the fact that they were surprised, when the people came in, they're like, "Wait a minute, you're not supposed to be here."
right? No, that's very true. It's it's fascinating. I mean, we knew that Cassian was going to get out, but it was such a great
Yeah,
way, and
yeah,
and
a great prison escape right there.
really,
Yeah.
really, very much so. Um,
If we didn't have 2 episodes left, it would have made for a great season 1 cliffhanger to see
Mhm.
oh
what would
yeah,
happen next. But now that
Yeah.
we've got 2 episodes left for reals, it's going to be interesting to see just what
Mm.
happens and how he crosses
Yeah,
paths.
how the season ends, and because we've had so far we've had two of the big, I could just say, I don't want to use the word stereotypical, but typical spy movie tropes. We've had the we've had, starting out with the bank robbery, breaking into, some place to get something. We've
right.
had the prison break. What's next? What's the next big thing they have to do? Find some sort of information, I'm guessing.
Or stop some kind of evil super weapon. Oh wait, that comes up in Rogue One.
Yeah, that comes. Yeah. Oh, which by the way, have you heard that George Lucas is signed on to direct the sequel for
Oh,
Rogue One?
I've heard this one.
I got legitimately happy there for a moment, and then I'm like, oh wait, the sequel is A New Hope. Oh, curse you, John Mark Tully.
You're welcome.
You're such
You're
a
welcome.
silly. You're such a silly. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like,
Although on a side note, I've said this before. I do want to see Rogue 2 mini Bothans.
yes. I do. I seriously do want to see that story. I mean, if they're gonna, they've established that they can write a story where they don't have to keep anybody around. So come on, you got all the Bothans. It'd be great.
All the Bothans.
I would,
but
that
is the one race that we. That is one of the races from the extended, from the old EU, that was mentioned in canon in the canon universe too.
Oh
That we
no,
have yet to see.
that's not an EU
I know,
race,
but we have yet to see them.
right?
They're prominent in the old EU.
Right.
Bossk
as
Falea.
far as being seen visibly.
Yeah, Bossk Falea, being a former chancellor, and all that. But
Didn't he
we have yet
arrest?
to see them.
Didn't he have Akbar arrested in the?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he was. Not a good. The Bothans weren't necessarily the nicest people in the galaxy. Very political, very backstabby.
Political intrigue.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it would be cool just to
worse.
see.
They could be Trandashans.
Oh yes,
those guys.
But no. I mean, this is kind of off topic, but the way the Bothans in the old EU were, and to kind of switch, cross streams, they reminded me a lot of the Cardassians in Star Trek. They were that kind of, or even the Romulans, just kind of backstabby. Yeah, they always had the idea that they were working 3 different angles at all times. But anyway, this isn't about that.
No, I get what you're saying though.
Well, let's see. What else do we have?
Well, last week we covered our thoughts about Tales of the Jedi. I'm curious to hear what Will has to say about it.
Have you seen Tales of the Jedi?
Oh, yeah. I was about to ask you guys if you had talked about it. I did. I watched. I watched all six episodes. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was intrigued very much. But I liked both stories. I liked the Ahsoka, kind of the story. I think my favorite episode, I think, just in its the the brutality of it was Anakin training Ahsoka.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I was just blown away, and that they took it right to the Order 6, the post Order 66 scene with Rex and her. And then they open up the doors and go right into that scene, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" That's just what a freaking irony, and just the fact that Anakin is the one who trained her so well.
Well, Garrett pointed out, just even at that point, even pre-fall Anakin, the brutality that Anakin was willing to put Ahsoka through.
Yes,
like even this is pre-fall Anakin, and he's still.
Well, yeah, but he was saying he again, he was so afraid to lose her, and he wanted to make sure that she was absolutely ready for anything.
Yeah,
and he figured that at that point, utilizing the clones that could think on their feet versus the droids that were just programmed.
Not to quote, but what's the line from Dodgeball, from the movie Dodgeball? If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Okay.
If you can dodge a stormtrooper, if you can parry the stormtrooper blast, you can bury a droid blast.
Right. So just fantastic. That was my favorite of that particular story. And then of course with Count Dooku, it's amazing to me that they are essentially, what a great character study of how a good man turns bad. Like,
yeah.
I mean, with Anakin, we got to watch that, but with Anakin, he was always angry.
Yeah.
He always had something he was mad about. And he brooded a little bit, and we see the same thing with Kylo Ren. There was always this broodiness to it. But with him, with Count Dooku, I always felt like these younger versions of him, he was really trying to do the right thing. He was trying. Yeah. He, like any one of us, would try to maintain some sense of peace and order and justice. And when you're witnessing that it just isn't happening, that there's this political, corruption going on, that the Republic is like rotting from within.
Yeah.
That why would any one of us not want to if we had the power to, not want to try to fix this issue? But the allure to the dark side, and Sidious was pulling the strings with this, was just, you start off by thinking that you're right and just, and then all of a sudden she slowly starts to twist it into something else.
Yeah.
So I was really,
I thought was one episode. I don't remember if we touched on this last week, but the episode where it was Dooku and Windu going to the planet. It was interesting to see that dichotomy between them, and you could tell that even though there was disagreement, that they were friends.
Yeah.
At least at that point, you could see there was a friendship between them and a camaraderie between them.
Well, even when it's one of the only times that Mace Windu in Samuel L. Jackson even cracked the slightest smile.
Yeah.
In all three of the movies, he was very stoic, But there was one moment when Padme basically all but accuses, does accuse Count Dooku of setting up the explosion that tried to kill her. I think Count Dooku is behind it, and the one with Kayadi Mundi was like, "Oh, he's a political idealist, not a murderer." And then he just looks at it, the Count would never assassinate anyone. It's not in his character, and he kind of smiled when he said it. Like, this is like somebody who kind of has a man crush on this guy,
Yeah.
So
And we talked about this too. I just want to get your initial thoughts, but have this whole time has Yoda just had a speech impediment and we just didn't realize it? Yaddle talks perfectly normal. It's like, is that it the whole time? Yoda just has a speech impediment. We just.
I mean, I don't know. He could just be an eccentric, you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too.
Maybe he
900
talks
years
that way.
old, you become a grandmaster of the Jedi Order. You can talk however you want.
Maybe, yeah, and maybe he talks that way on purpose so that everyone has to kind of listen harder to make sure they're understanding what he's saying.
Yeah,
You know, I don't know.
yeah.
The other thing is you listen to the way he talks. I mean, even from Empire Strikes Back, and it because of the backward syntax, it feels like there's something less progressive about his mental capacity. That he might be a little bit dumb or brain damaged or whatever. And what that does, but it underlies this ability that Yoda has to allow people to underestimate him and what he's actually capable of doing. Because then at that point, you know, like we look at Yoda, we see this frail old alien. We have no idea just how fast he can move. We have no idea just how capable of a warrior he was. Like because for what was it? Until the very tail end of Attack of the Clones, we never once see him draw a lightsaber.
Right.
And
no, that's true.
It completely throws off this idea that he is not like, it's like, how did he get to be as old and as wise and as ranked as he was when he doesn't do anything? And sure, he's strong with the Force, big whoop, but lightsaber combat is a part of that of that ranking in the Jedi Order, and you don't see that until like I said, the tail end of Episode 2. At which point, everyone's like, "Holy crap! We don't want to mess with him because he's a frog on ketamine."
No. Yeah. Speaking of Yoda, I will say I was a little bit during the episode. I guess it's the one where Ahsoka's doing the training and Anakin comes in late and sitting there with Obi-Wan, but Yoda was there. But there was no dialogue for Yoda, and I was sad because I think part of that is Tom Kane, who did the voice for Yoda, suffered a stroke last year, and he was forced to retire from voice acting, which is very sad because if you don't know him if you know him just from the announcer for the beginning of Clone Wars and also Yoda, but he also is like he
voiced Yularen and
he's voiced and he's also voiced like hundreds of different. He was the voice of the Academy Awards. He's done all sorts of commercials. He's like all over the Disney parks. Does all the transportation stuff. It's just it's so sad. And I hope he's doing well. I know his family kind of sends out like tweets out updates and stuff, and he's got a good sense of humor and he's doing stuff, but he's unable to do dialogue anymore. So I don't know what they're going to do about that. Frank Oz has reprised Yoda, the voice of Yoda, multiple times. So I mean, I don't know if but I don't think he wants to become tethered to that, especially if they're going to be. I mean, it's one thing if it's just a handful of. I mean, he was doing it during, I think, Rebels, right? I think when the Yoda appeared in the World Between Worlds. Yeah. I think he was doing it there. So.
Yeah, I know that Frank Oz was doing the voice of Yoda. I think, was it also during Clone Wars or was it only during Rebels?
It was only during Rebels. Tom Kane was pretty much exclusively Yoda during the Clone Wars TV series. So, and I don't know,
with today's technology, they could always do what they plan on doing with Darth Vader.
I don't know.
Where they take they have his voice already in the can, so then they could just take it and replicate it.
I feel like that's okay for Vader, just because it seems like the kind of thing that would, the way Vader would have spoken all along would be with some voice, some synthesized voice. If Anthony Daniels wanted to, do the same thing for C-3PO, I could see that as well. But for human actors playing human parts, I don't know. I don't know if that.
Yeah.
if that would fly, but maybe it
Yeah.
will. I don't know. We'll see.
No, and who knows what type of technology they'll
Again,
come
yeah.
up with.
Who knows how they're gonna wow us in the future, right? So,
Yeah.
but anyway, so yes, but
Um,
I very much enjoyed Tales of the Jedi. I thought
Yeah.
thought they were phenomenal. My only complaint about any of this is that I just want more. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, when's the next Tales? And I know it takes a long time for them to do because it's such beautifully made. You know, from the colors to the lighting to, you know, I loved, Qui-Gon, young Qui-Gon being played by Liam Neeson's son.
Son, that was cool.
That was
pretty
a
brilliant.
classy touch there.
And how they tied in with what was going on in the sequel trilogy within the sequel trilogies.
Yes.
You know, you saw the tie-in. So that leads me to, I wouldn't mind if they did that with each of the trilogies. Like had these tie-in stories as to what's going on in the back, you know, during. So like when they do the next season of Tales, if it takes place during the original trilogy.
Well,
Like,
have you ever read From a Certain Point of View? Have you read those books?
I have not read those.
Okay.
Those books. I've heard of them, but I've not read them.
I don't know if they come up with one for Return of the Jedi, but they've come up with one for Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. And I'm in the middle of the Empire Strikes Back one right now. It's such a great concept, I find, because they're all short stories, and essentially they go through the story, the entire movie, if you will, but as it chronologically moves along, you get a perspective of something going on. Sometimes it's somebody from another character, from somebody, maybe a character you haven't even seen before. Okay, like and sometimes they're very serious, and sometimes they're very fun and more lighthearted. I don't believe any of these are considered canon.
I don't think
per
so.
se, but I do, and they're often like celebrity writers. I think Bryce Dallas Howard might have written one. I think Ashley Eckstein wrote one. So there's a lot of different people that come from different planes, but it is funny to watch and to kind of see. I'll give you one example, and it's more of a lighthearted, if you want to call it lighthearted, tongue in cheek. I'm in the Empire Strikes Back, and we're at the point where Vader appears when on Bespin with the doors opening and Lando double crosses them. Well, it's the point of view is from the chef.
That's clever.
Yeah, I mean, just that alone. I think the name of it is. Does anybody know if he even eats? I think it's the name of the story, because basically the way the story works is that there is this executive chef who cooks all the fancy meals and the night parties for Lando's guests and everything, and she's a Devorian. Is that what it is, with the kind of the devil looking?
Yeah.
And they have a whole backstory about that, about how generally it's the women are supposed to stay home and the men are the ones who go off and go gallivanting around. But she's actually wanted a career as a chef, and she went out and kind of like broke with tradition. So she's out there, and Lando hired her to work on in Cloud City, and she's there, but she works nights, and she stays up all night entertaining, and then she sleeps during the day. Well, she gets an important buzz from her comlink to come to, wants to meet Lando, needs to see her immediately. So she's all complaining, and she goes in, and Lando's basically saying, look, we have the special visitor, and we need a banquet, very quick banquet, finger food, nothing serious, nothing too extravagant, but it's got to be good, and it's got to be like the best thing. And she's like, you're giving me like no time to prepare this. What the heck? And remember and then they start talking, and you can see like Lando's a little nervous, and he's uncharacteristically so. And it's all about like she's got a little Ugnaught assistant, like sous chef, that helps her, and they create whatever they can, and she's just like just her thoughts. She didn't realize it was for Darth Vader, and she's freaking out, and it's just all this kind of funny stuff. And again, it's nothing like earth shattering, it's not something, but it like Garrett was laughing at it. It is kind of tongue in cheek. And then it's not always humanoid. I mean, there was a story about from the point of view of Tauntauns, from the point of view of Wampas,
gosh, that would be great to read.
It is. It's fantastic. It's so much fun. And the best part is that you might not resonate with every story, but the stories are all, one story's like 3 pages, one's like 20 pages, one's 10 pages. So they're not all, they're very digestible.
This is what I want to see. And this is in honor of you, Will, because I know you're a fan of the Christmas special.
Oh, yes.
But to do one of these point of view stories of point of view of the Wookiees, but written entirely in Wookiee speak.
Well, speaking of that,
entire chapter of nothing but Wookiee speak.
Speaking of the holiday special, so we've been down in Disney this weekend, and they, of course, if there's something that if Disney can put a piece of merchandise out for people to buy that they think people are going to buy, they will do it. So they have embraced Life Day that came from the holiday special as an actual Star Wars holiday that takes place on Batuu. And we've talked about this in the past. Mm-hmm. And they have merchandise, and it comes out now. It came out I think a week ago, and they'll have it on sale throughout the Christmas season. So it was hysterical because I think I said it 3 times on this trip. People were walking around looking at all. They'd have them all on display, and what's this Life Day? I don't get it. What is Life Day? And I would stop. I'm like, oh, you don't know Life Day? Well, let me tell you about the Star Wars Holiday Special. And
you're doing the job for the employees.
I am doing the job, and they're probably looking at me thank you, because they don't even know.
For being the fan that you are.
They have no idea.
Will, you were doing the work of the Force.
I was. I felt it was my duty. I did, and I enjoyed it.
Speaking of, I don't know what just reminded me of this, but of either characters that I would personally just love to see, either put in. And there was a rumor that 2 of the stormtroopers in the Mandalorian were this. I would love to see Tag and Bink.
Oh yeah,
in live action.
Do you know Tag and Bink, Garrick?
I don't think so.
So it's a comic book that came out, and it was basically, have you heard of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead or something like that? Yeah. It's that kind of thing.
Basically, there are these 2 stormtroopers, but they happen to be at every single point where
pivotal moment.
So they were the 2 gunners that were shooting, that weren't going to shoot at the shoot the escape pod out. They're also the Imperial Guards.
Yeah, that was my favorite. They were the Imperial Guards. But let me tell this one. They were the Imperial Guards, and when the Red Guards, and when how they got there was some weird adventure. But then you hear Palpatine's "Gods, leave us," and the 2 of them are okay, I guess we got to leave. So they walk around the back, right? And then they get to the other side, and they're like, "Crap, there's no elevator here. What do we do? Do we just stand here?"
While Vader and Luke are fighting.
Yeah, so they're just hiding behind the column because they don't know what to do. They don't want to be embarrassingly walk back. Sorry, thought there was another door there.
Can you find this for me? I need this in my life.
Yeah, and they're they're on all these different things. They just either happen to do something to screw everything up and be the cause of why everything goes wrong. They're just completely lost and on the other end.
Those.
But the rumor was that they were the stormtroopers that catch Baby Yoda. And
I refuse to believe that, because those guys would never punch Baby Yoda like that. I'm sorry.
No.
But they would never do that
type of thing where they're just complete buffoons and just completely. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Tag and Bink. So you got the Adventures of Tag and Bink. I think you can find, I guess, a trade paperback now that has all of the comics in one book.
Yeah.
So you can look for that, and it'll have the whole story. It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. And that's those are the kind of things that I enjoy the most. I don't get too invested in the long-term comics and or multi-book, the Yuzan Vong whole thing, the New Jedi Order. But I enjoy the short stories. I enjoy Tales of the Jedi, Tales of Mos Eisley Cantina. These from a certain point of view stories. So it's fun.
Well, before we go, let's do a quick thoughts about what we think we can expect next week with Andor.
You know what? That's a well. Let's remember, Cassian is still being hunted by Luthen's people, so I don't know if that's gonna turn into another conflict. Is he gonna go back to see his ailing mother? I think there's more that needs to be resolved there.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see some of that. Is Mon Mothma going to reconsider what what the criminal guy was suggesting? And again, I still think there's more to. I mean, you know what? Being a parent of once being a parent of a teenager, I really can't tell you for certain if we've talked about the daughter, Mon Mothma's daughter, being like something more to her than she's letting on. But frankly, she could just be a bratty teenager. I mean, teaching many of them for a living. I can tell you that's she's pretty much on point right now.
Yeah.
It's not like an unreasonable behavior. So
yeah,
no, it's not.
and we still have
Garrett agrees.
What is going to be the ultimate fate of even Mon Mothma's husband? Is he going to be just someone that eventually she just leaves him? Is there going to be some sort of other reveal?
You know what? I've actually got a prediction on this with him.
Okay, I have one.
My prediction is that by episode 12, what's going to happen is, as much as he is a loyalist to the Empire, he is when someone comes looking for her, because they are going to, it's only a matter of time. And I think this is what puts her on the run, because by the time we get to Return of the Jedi, I mean, there's no Senate at that point, and she's a senator without a job, so she becomes a strategist. But my thought is, and this is really what pushes her to becoming a true believer in this cause, more so than she is right now, is that he is going to protect her, and he's going to say that he's a spy.
Oh,
I think so. I think so too. I don't know if it's going to be that, but I think there will be that moment where either that happens or where he tells her, the Empire is kind of catching on to her, and he's the one that tells her, you have to go. You have to, I'll protect our daughter. You have to go. You have to, this is bigger. You have to leave.
I don't know. I don't know if I buy it. I'll see. I mean, I wouldn't mind it if either one of those played out, but I right now I haven't seen any evidence to support him being any more than just a marriage of convenience. Loving the fruits of his wife's pocketbook and just living the good life, not paying it.
But I think, like we said, like we kind of touched on last week, is one of the main things that happens, seems to be in every Star Wars story to some extent, is this idea of redemption. You have, I think with the exception of maybe not the original trilogy, but the prequels, which were set up purposely to have an opposite of a redemption of a fall. Every one of the other trilogies have had some sort of redemption of a character, whether it be, Vader being redeemed or Kylo Ren being redeemed. You always kind of have that sort of redemption arc. So I'm wondering if you're going to have the same thing with this, where you have a redemption arc, where you have a character that you might have seen as a villain in the past, or through the show being redeemed.
Could be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. So,
all right. Well, we're coming up on the hour mark, which means time to kind of wrap things up. And Will, why don't you tell the people out there where they can find you at?
Well, my channel is on YouTube, Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing Show. It's been running hot and heavy with a lot of new orders that have been coming in. And I was going to have a whole thing about it again on that channel about the Halcyon, but now we can look forward to hearing this story again. I've been telling it a lot lately, but that's okay. And you can check me out on Instagram and Twitter at DarthTuba, DarthTuba Star Wars Unboxing page on Facebook. And you can email me, DarthTuba77@gmail.com.
And Garrett, what about you?
Well, you can find me also on YouTube, GKJ Publishing. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at GKJ_publishing. Right now, I'm doing a huge push all month long for No Shave November. The whole point is to raise money for cancer research and awareness, specifically cancers that affect men. And so for anybody who's interested in doing that, I have links on all my social media platforms where they can go and donate. The biggest contribution gets to decide what I do with the beard at the end of the month.
Nice.
A couple of years ago, I went pink.
Oh, wow. Nice.
As for us right here, of course, you can find us each and every week. We record live here on StreamYard. Or if you're not able to catch us live, you can go on wherever fine podcasts are heard. Just search for War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. If you want to get a hold of us, the best way is through our email, which is warofthestars1@gmail.com, or you can go to our Twitter page, which is again at War of the Stars 1, or just search us on Facebook. Just search War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/War of the Stars. As we've been saying, we got some big plans ahead for the beginning of the new year after the holidays for our Patreon listeners and Patreon supporters. So getting in on the ground level, and we've got some fun ideas planned for that. Or you can buy our merch. I'm not wearing any merch right now, but it is spreadshirt.com/shop/War of the Stars. Link will be in all the descriptions of all our social medias to grab all the cool merchandise there. Before we go, I want to give a War of the Stars, of course, and all of the nerdverse, of course, out there is saddened by the loss of Rob Conroy,
Kevin
Conroy. Sorry, Kevin Conroy, the longtime voice of Batman. Connection to Star Wars with Mark Hamill being the iconic voice of the Joker. Our condolences go out to his family. Lost a great voice actor there, and just a great actor in general. So our thoughts go out to his family and everyone there. So he's one with the Force, and the Joker the clown is crying. But as always, remember, this is not just my Star Wars. This is not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next time, may the Force be with you.
Still aspire, everyone.